We've reached the point where we've been able to make a hockey player class. And the hockey player class contains information about a hockey player, such as their first name, last name, and number of goals and assists. Once we've made one hockey player, the obvious thing to do is to start to make more hockey players. And once you make more hockey players, then you have to have a list in order to store them. In Java, a list is made in this way. On the left-hand side, we use the generic word for any kind of list. We say that the list can only contain hockey players. It's important in Java that we specify exactly what kind of thing the list is going to contain, and lists only contain one type of thing at a time. So for instance, it's not possible, or you don't want to make lists of hockey players and sponges combined at the same time. You want to keep those lists separate. The left-hand side of the equal sign is the declaration of the variable that's going to keep track of the list for us. And then on the right-hand side, we have the actual making of the list with new. And again, on the right-hand side, we have to specify that the list can only contain hockey players. So if we were to read this, I would say that it's a list of hockey players called Canucks that can only contain hockey players. Then we had some previous hockey players that we added to the list, and finally we made a brand new one that never had a variable associated with it and added it to the list. In other words, the value that comes back from new is added directly onto the list. I always like to think of new as returning things like a phone number. So in essence, what you're doing is you're adding the hockey player's phone number onto the list so that you can call them at some time later. Once they're on the list, it's perfectly reasonable to delete the scrap pieces of paper that you had lying around that referred to the hockey player's phone number, because you know that if you need to, you can retrieve it off the list again. So in this example, the next thing we do is we turn around and we say, well, oh, okay, let's go retrieve hockey player number 2 off the list. So hockey player number 2 would have been not Daniel, which was 0, or Alex, which was 1, but Henrik Sabine, which is the number 2 person on the list. His lists are numbered starting at 0. At that point, we can print out their first name, and we're done.